Stefan Josten has been affiliated with the Thunderbolts, Lethal Legion, Masters of Evil, Emissaries of Evil, Defenders, and the Revengers. He has partnered with swordsmen. His notable aliases include Power Man, Smuggler, Goliath, and Atlas.
His abilities include Pym particle ionic energy physiology, superhuman strength, durability, agility, reflexes, stamina, invulnerability, size, mass manipulation, mass transference, dimensional shifting, portal creation, adaptive possession, flight, energy manipulation and transference, ionic blasts, immortality, a regenerative healing factor, military training, expert hand-to-hand combat skills, a skilled marksman and tactician, and a trained pilot. Erik Josten, also known as Power Man, Smuggler, Goliath, and Atlas, is a prominent member of both the Masters of Evil and the Thunderbolts. Josten was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A former AWOL Marine turned mercenary, he is employed by Heinrich Zemo as head of his South American security and mercenary force.
After Zemo's presumed death, Josten is convinced by the Enchantress to undergo the ionic ray treatment from a machine invented by Zemo, making Josten super strong, though not as strong as Wonder Man since the treatment was specifically calibrated to Wonder Man, and the Enchantress wasn't aware it had to be tailored to the subject. Taking the name Power Man, he becomes the Enchantress partner and battles the Avengers at her request. She used illusions to turn the city against the Avengers, though finally Captain America used a tape recording to prove the Avengers were innocent.
He becomes a professional supervillain and partners with the Swordsman, and the two fight the Avengers, again under the leadership of the brainwashed Black Widow. Alongside the Swordsman, he becomes an unwitting pawn of Red Skull and fights Captain America. He briefly serves as an agent of the Mandarin.
He later fights the Avengers again as a member of the First Lethal Legion. Eventually, Josten meets Luke Cage, a hero who for a brief time has assumed the name Power Man. The two fight over the right to use the name, and Cage wins.
Josten then joins Count Nefaria's new Lethal Legion under the promise that Nefaria will greatly increase Josten's powers. This he does, but Nefaria later steals Josten's enhanced powers, along with those of his other superhuman underlings, which greatly reduces his strength. His strength faded, Josten changes his costume and becomes a smuggler, taking the unimaginative yet appropriate name of the Smuggler.
In his first and only appearance as Smuggler, he is defeated by Spider-Man. Spider-Man then assists Josten against the Magia. Later, he gains the ability to grow to giant size from the criminal Dr. Karl Malus using a sample of Hank Pym's growth serum.
He then takes on the name of Goliath, a name used previously by superheroes, and again changes his costume. He fights James Rhodes as Iron Man and the West Coast Avengers, which defeat him. Using his ability, he is sent by Dr. Doom to kill Spider-Man, but Goliath is defeated thanks to the hero's newly acquired cosmic powers.
Under the leadership of the Grim Reaper, Goliath again battles the West Coast Avengers alongside Man-Ape, Necra, and Ultron. His escape attempt is foiled by Avengers. Josten joins a new fourth version of the Masters of Evil, founded by Baron Helmut Zemo.
During his time with this group, Josten is one of the villains who invades and captures Avengers Mansion and beats Hercules severely. Goliath later battles Spider-Man once again and is arrested. His attempted breakout at the Vault is foiled by the Avengers and Freedom Force.
He also battles Wonder Man in an attempt to usurp fame. Josten as Goliath later fights Giant Man, Bill Foster, Ant-Man, Scott Lang, and then another Goliath, Clint Barton. He then has a rematch with Wonder Man.
He is then victimized by Cosmosian criminals and rescued by Giant Man. When Zemo later decides to disguise the Masters of Evil as a superhero team called the Thunderbolts, Josten creates the original identity and costume of Atlas. During this time, he began dating the Thunderbolts' political liaison, Dallas Riordan.
However, like most of the Thunderbolts, Atlas begins to enjoy public admiration, and eventually reforms to attempt to be a genuine superhero, even after the Thunderbolts' criminal past is publicly revealed. After absorbing the energy from one of Nefaria's weapons, an ionic bomb, Josten mutates into a gigantic ionic energy creature.
The Scourge eventually killed him to protect the town of Burton Canyon, Colorado. Atlas's ionic form later begins haunting Riordan in much the same way that Wonder Man's ionic form had haunted the Scarlet Witch. Later, Atlas would possess Dallas and empower her with the ionic energy. Together they rejoin the other founding Thunderbolt members in defeating Graviton and are shunted to Counter-Earth.
He is shown being struck by Plastic Man, who is turned into a giant ball. When they are separated upon returning from Counter-Earth, Dallas takes the ionic energy, leaving Josten powerless, a situation which lasts until Fixer gives him a new dose of PIM particles. However, he regains the ability to change his size by reclaiming the ionic energy from Dallas, leaving her a paraplegic again. Altered again by the Wellspring, during a battle against the Grandmaster in which he has to surrender his powers temporarily to Zemo, he is left stuck in a giant form, too heavy even to move and communicate. However, he is able to send back some ionic energy to Dallas, restoring her legs. Atlas is restored to normal size by scientists at Camp Hammond, and registers Atlas as part of the initiative. Though registered, Atlas's size-changing powers are considered too unreliable to be placed on an initiative team. However, Nighthawk hires him along with other questionable heroes after his Defenders team is decommissioned by S.H.I.E.L.D. Atlas was later recruited by Wonder Man, whose ionic energy leaking problem was affecting his judgment, to join his Revengers. Atlas's reason for joining the Revengers was that his numerous requests to join the initiative were denied. Following the Pleasant Hill incident, Atlas joined up with Winter Soldier's incarnation of the Thunderbolts with the goal to prevent S.H.I.E.L.D. from continuing the Kobuk project. Atlas was seen fighting the Leviathan Tide monsters in Washington, D.C. Atlas was later approached by Baron Helmut Zemo and his third incarnation of the Masters of Evil in order to recruit him. When he resisted, the Masters of Evil attacked him as Jolt shows up to help him. During the fight against the Masters of Evil, Atlas and the Thunderbolts were defeated and captured. Atlas, Moonstone, and Fixer eventually defect to the Masters of Evil after Baron Helmut Zemo uses Kobuk's abilities to send Winter Soldier back in time. After Kobuk shattered, Atlas assisted in searching for her fragments in order for Baron Zemo to put her back together. When the Masters of Evil become part of Hydra's army of evil, Atlas took part in the attack on Manhattan in retaliation for what happened at Pleasant Hill. Similarly to Wonder Man and Count Nefaria, Erik Josten is a virtually indestructible immortal made of ionic energy, as a result of the application of mutagenic processes developed by Heinrich Zemo. He possesses incredible superhuman dynamism regarding strength, coordination, stamina and durability. He is practically invulnerable even at normal size. After losing his ionic powers to Nefaria, Josten would gain new abilities as a result of Dr. Karl Malus' experimentations. Additionally, gaining the power to increase his size and mass at will. Originally he was limited to convert his normal 6-foot height to his maximum 60 foot, but he later learned to increase this limit when he is angry. Josten psionically draws the additional mass from an extra-dimensional source of cosmos, to which it returns as he decreases in size. At his maximum height he is capable of greatly outmatching Namor, or even defeating Hyperion with a single attack. His durability also increases with his height, and if his physical state were ever to be disrupted in any way, he will eventually physically reincorporate himself even from death if need be, giving him an expedient regenerative ability capable of reconstructing his body given enough time. Once, when helping renegade Cosmosans, he was able to absorb the majority of the mass from their prison, allowing them to escape. His obsession with size and power made him their prisoner as they continually filled him with the mass from their prison. Encased in an extra dimension, and hundreds of miles tall, he was saved by the 100-foot giant man, Henry Pym, and was returned to normal size and in a coma. In a similar vein, he could funnel Pym particle energies through himself from Cosmos in order to cause all manner of mass-shifting induction that affected everyone and everything differently, such as giving Clint Barton his size-shifting abilities without Pym particle intake. After Nefaria had consolidated his ionic energy to be predominant, Erik gained access to the fullest effect of latent abilities. As his ionic force meshes with the growth particles in his system, Goliath also has access to certain abilities Simon and Nefaria do not, such as extra-dimensional breach generation, which can be turned against him if he grows too large or has his energy polarity shifted. Becoming pure ionic energy much like the Nefaria and Wonder Man, making him powerful enough to stalemate two superhero teams. After his energy form became unstable and he exploded, Atlas started using the crippled Dallas Reardon as an anchor in order to manifest in the living world, giving her some of his Atlas powers and an energy form to match. Powers beyond increased physical abilities such as his size shifting, energy manipulation and flight. Even while separated from her, Erik could still bestow Reardon some of his ionic energy, both giving her mobility and slightly enhanced conditioning back. Josten is a good hand-to-hand combatant, having received combat training in armed and unarmed defense when working both in the military and as a mercenary. He's an able pilot and aviation specialist, capable of flying most any kind of aerodynamic vehicle. And while preferring to serve rather than lead, Mr. Josten also excels as a combat strategist while on the field. Erik's parents were farmers who lost their farm as a result of Erik's crimes as Power Man making the news. No one in their town would do business with the Jostens. His older brother Carl became an alcoholic and a gambling addict. His younger sister Lindy was killed when she was 10 years old and Erik was 17. She tried to follow him and his friends on her bike and was eventually hit by a car. His younger brother Conrad was so ashamed of Erik that he ran away and changed his name. Carl was murdered by a loan shark he owed money to. Conrad was inducted into the Redeemers and took Erik's previous codename Smuggler and was given a suit that allowed him to access the Dark Force dimension. Conrad and the majority of the Redeemers were killed by the villain Graviton. Years later, Zemo coerced Erik into betraying the Thunderbolts by offering to save Conrad from the Dark Force dimension. Conrad briefly serves a member of the Thunderbolts alongside Erik and they made peace with their past. As a Thunderbolt, Erik was the least assertive member despite being the physically strongest one on the team. He frequently runs from his problems. He ran away from home after his sister's death and joined the military, then he went AWOL and became a smuggler and later a mercenary working for Heinrich Zemo. It was at this time he first met Heinrich's son Helmut. Erik betrays Baron Helmut Zemo when he tries to kill Jolt but later saves him from death after the Baron suffers a severe beating by Moonstone. Erik routinely demurs to the leadership of others on his team as he does not like making decisions because, as he puts it, he's just a grunt. Erik usually is the first to empathize with a foe and often places his relationships with friends and family over doing the right thing. Instances of this include, when he knew Man Killer was pretending to be a bartender while she was lying low from the law, not telling the team about saving Zemo, refusing to tell the Thunderbolts about Techno being in Burton Canyon, betraying his team to save his brother, and killing Genis to prevent him from disrupting Abe and Melissa's relationship because he feared it would screw up Abe's reconstitution of the Thunderbolts.